Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm sitting here with my good friend, radio DJ and new host of the Sunday Night's Main Event podcast, Mike McGuire. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you, brother. This is weird.
Well, and thank you for coming on, man. It's a lot of people don't know, and I said I wouldn't put you over, but I have to. You did my intro very graciously for a I'm not going to say the amount, but there was an amount donated to the charity of your choice for doing the work for me. So people, it wasn't free. Don't be hitting my man up. Yeah, I appreciate you doing the intro, and you were one of the kind of the first and earliest supporters of this podcast. So yeah, man, thanks for coming on.
Well, and that was an easy decision, first of all, because you're like, I have to give you some money. I was like, you're Duke Durango. No, you don't. But then when we thought of it, I was like, yeah, okay, well, let's make this a donation thing. And so it all worked out. So yeah, I'm happy about it, dude. The show has been great. I've watched and listened to a lot of them. And it's funny watching you kind of just reminisce and really see the impact that you've had on the independent wrestling scene across Alberta and across Canada, and even the talents that are in WWE today or AEW. Like, there's a lot of people that you've touched and you've affected. No, and see, this is where I put you over now. Yeah, that's all this show is going to be, is you're great. Yeah. No, you're great.
Yeah, just sunshine after sunshine.
But it's true though, because honestly, you know, I can think back to my instances. I was just an idiot ring announcer, you know, thinking that wrestling is way more serious than it needed to be. And you even gave me great advice through the years. I did train with you for a while until I had that weird stinger, which I'm sure will come up somewhere down the road here. But yeah, you know, just knowing the amount of respect that you have earned from so many people, man, to have me on your little show here, or little old me, I should say, on your big show, because no, dude, I'm not kidding. I hate it when people say, oh, I'm on your little show. So I really apologize for that. But
no,
it's a case, dude, where, you know, this is an honor for me, because I mean, you and I go way back. And so to have you think that anybody would give two craps about what I got to say, it's pretty cool.
Well, and I mean, the thing is, you're one of those guys that I didn't realize when, you know, you worked for PWA for all that time. Yeah. I don't know when I realized, or if I ever really realized you were in radio until you were leaving to go do more radio.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was like, wait, why is he leaving? And all of a sudden I was like, well, that ring announcer's, you know, I couldn't believe we'd lost Mike McGuire, because to me, you were the voice of the show. Like, you were so good and you brought so much. And I was like, well, shit, what are we going to do now?
Wow. I mean, to be fair, I mean, that's nice of you to say, but there's been some great ring announcers since, obviously, but
people don't realize how important that is. Do you know what I mean?
I agree with that. And I'm not saying that to blow my own smoke here, because I believe that if you're going to be a ring announcer for a show, it's almost like a referee, where you yourself don't want to be noticed as the person, but the way and the energy that you give someone as you're introducing them to the ring, that matters. The tone, the inflection, the energy. You know, you can put over a baby face, or you can get heat on a heel just by slightly saying the name differently too. Right. And there are wrestlers and performers that will actually pick up on that. And actually, a great story I heard recently from one of the WWE ring announcers was saying that, you know, AJ Styles has a very specific way that he likes his name being said when he's a babyface and when he's a heel. So right. It's kind of a neat little thing to pick up on, because it's things that if you do think about it, you can make it matter. If you're just doing it to do it, then you can be just anybody, you know?
Well, but it also lets you know too, I think, when you hear a story like that, what details they're looking at the highest level. You know what I mean? Like, what you're telling me now, never something I considered. And you're sitting here saying, oh, you brought so much, you helped so many people. Like, I never even thought about what you just told me. And it's like, that is such a good, you know what I mean? That's a piece of wisdom I'll start imparting to people. Like, you know, have the ring, make sure the ring announcers don't just treat you differently, but say your name differently to make you a heel or a baby face, or how they inflect their voice when they say your name.
And this is a funny thing from a wrestling standpoint and a locker room standpoint. You know, if I can impart anything to anybody, is get to know your ring announcer and let your ring announcer get to know you, because it does make a difference. It makes a difference in how they're going to feel about even introducing you. And I'm not saying that you got to go there and kiss their butt. I'm saying the exact opposite. To be honest, Duke, the first time I ring announced was at a PWA show in Sherwood Park. And I was basically going there to be Howard Finkel. I wanted to be the guy, and I wanted to give the big voice, the big booming intro and everything. But I was scared crapless to actually approach any of the roster.
Right.
So once I kind of got in and made it into that, that fraternity or whatever you want to call it,
The inner circle.
Yeah, pretty much, to borrow a term. But it became something where it's like, yeah, we can have some fun with it. I mean, doing your name, it became kind of a game, right? So we would have fun as we'd bring you out, whether you're a heel or a baby. And that was our little moment for you and me. But,
Right.
I've had that happen with other talents down the road and different companies and stuff. And it matters, your hometown, your work weight, your shoot weight, whatever you want to go with. Make sure your announcer has all that stuff. And, and for any ring announcers too, nut up, go get your info, go get your stuff. Cause that's how you pay respect to the wrestlers, is by making sure that they're presented as best as you can.
Well, and I think too, go to and again, I don't want anyone to think the ring announcer has to go around and kiss the boys' ass. But if you go to the boys and girls, if you go to the guys and gals in the locker room and say like, hey man, I need your info. I want to make sure I get my shit right tonight. Right away, you come across as a professional. And I think that's a really important thing, especially if you're breaking in, you always want to be taken seriously. And so the more seriously you take yourself to a certain degree, the more seriously you'll be taken.
Yeah. The key hints are, if you see wrestlers, stretching, getting ready, doing other things to prepare for a match, give them their time. But if they look like they're just kind of doing nothing, that's your time to get in there. Respect that they're about to go out and do what they do, and they got to focus on that. But you have your job to do as well. And that's, that's just as much your part as the referee's part is to stay out of the way and make you look good and get the count.
And also guys and gals in the locker room, make sure that you're also showing that ring announcer the appropriate respect. And if they haven't come to you, seek them out to make sure they get your information and get your name right, and get, make sure you all, the more everybody communicates, the easier the show's going to go. Sorry, cat trying to make an appearance here.
That's okay. I got two that are bouncing around here. But to give you a great example of this, and this is something that I'm not going to say who it was, but it's someone who's doing very well in one of the big companies right now. I hope you're leaving that in, because that was awesome. But someone who's in one of the big companies right now, they are the talk of the industry. We're talking about this person a lot on Sunday Night's Main Event. And when they came and worked an indie show for us in Regina, they forgot their music. Oh. Now, a lot of times your ring announcer may also be your music person, your lighting person, your everything else. There was actually one show where I did
and
everything. Yeah, pretty much. Right?
Yeah.
And so little things like bring your music. Don't always assume that there's free Wi-Fi where everybody can just download your tunes, even though it's easier now. Just bring your damn music. It's such a simple thing. And
bring a disc.
Bring a disc, bring a thumb drive. Maybe you got a cassette, a record, whatever. But
maybe you got some old Hank Williams on an 8-track. I'm looking at you, BVD. And I think that's important, because you need to, as the pro wrestler, and I don't know who said it to me. This definitely isn't, but I didn't make this up. But somebody said to me once, the first word of professional wrestler is professional. And I think if everybody kind of does their best to be as professional as possible, like, it's always, don't dress for the job you have, dress for the job you want, kind of that kind of mentality. Take it seriously at all levels, be a pro at all levels. You're not going to advance to the next level. And I think I can say this safely, for a guy that's moved up the food chain in radio. You don't go level to level without being a professional, right? If somebody doesn't look at you a professional, you're not moving up the food chain.
Yeah. And to be honest, the other side of it too is learn when you have to take yourself seriously and when you don't. And that's something that I think you'll agree with, especially as we get older. We realize that maybe we took our stuff a little too seriously sometimes.
I think that's fair.
And I'm not saying like let things fall by the wayside, but I remember basically being involved as a ring announcer, helping with ring stuff, everything. And dude, hello, kitty. It's all good. I took it almost too seriously sometimes.
Yeah.
Really serious. And that can, everybody's trying to put on the show. And I think the sooner that everybody realizes you're all actually on the same team, as professional wrestlers, as ring crew, as whatever, like you're all working for the same goal, and that's to put on a rocket buster show that night, then you've got it. Then you've got a crew that want to work together. And that's really the secret, I think, of all this.
Yeah. Well, I think, the shared passion should do that. Do you know what I mean? Like while you're in the ring by yourself, or with, with an opponent and a referee, or maybe you're working tags, so there's 5 of you in there. It feels like an isolated sport because you're doing so much on your own. The working out's done on your own. Once you leave a training camp, you're kind of on your own. It's a solo pursuit. But without that team of people within a locker room, the other people you wrestle with, plus, factor in the managers who are also a very important part of the show. Your managers, ring announcers, and not to mention the ring crew. I mean, top to bottom, if everybody doesn't work as a cohesive unit, it's not fun to go to work.
Yeah. And this is something where I've been outspoken. I've actually gotten quite hot about it. And I look back now and be like, there's probably better ways I could have handled it. But I don't understand at what level, and maybe you can shed some light on this, but at what level of an indie wrestler do you have to be to see a bunch of people struggling, bringing ring parts in and not bring in a piece? Do you know what I mean? Like, or just stand down and not help out in any way? Because last I checked, nobody's got like a Dwayne Johnson contract here. Nobody's showing up by private jet or anything. And I mean, I've seen you even setting up, carrying in posts, everything else. And I always wonder what causes that mentality. And I'm not saying this to be a jerk about it, but what do you think is that thing where it's like all of a sudden one day you don't have to bring in the ring anymore, or you don't have to help with setup anymore?
I think some of that's simply forgetting where you came from. Do you know what I mean? Forgetting that we all started at the bottom and worked our way up. There was a time, to be completely honest, when a lot of us at Stampede didn't help with the ring, simply because Johnny Devine, his buddy Vince, Ivan, Bill Yates at one time, those guys did the ring and they got paid a little extra. I mean, whatever we were making, they got paid a little extra to do that. So there was a point where, well, you guys are getting paid, we're not going to help you. But then there's also a point where like, hey man, they want to get home tonight too, so let's just all haul ass and get the ring down, even if they are making that extra, whatever it was on their paychecks. And I'm sure it wasn't a lot to do the ring. So I think that there was a point, and I don't say this as a point of pride or anything, there was a point where a promoter like Kurt, or even Bill Bell for that matter, would come to me and say like, Jordy, you don't have to do the ring anymore. But it's just kind of like, well, I don't mind. Like if I'm walking by and the guys need a hand, or if we're in a hurry to get the show started, or if we're trying to get the hell out of the venue, I don't mind helping. Like it's and I'm like that everywhere though. I think that, I mean, if I see a guy struggling at work, I'll jump in and help no matter what. So for me, it doesn't matter what I'm doing.
And that's fair too. And again, I'm not asking this to call anybody out or anything. It's just legit.
No, but I think that's a fair point to call out though.
Yeah. I think there is respect in paying dues and stuff. But I mean, at the same time, I've seen names that have been brought in for considerable amounts of money.
Yeah.
That will still help carry stuff in and out of the truck, and
maybe none of us are above that shit.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is you got to also consider, and some guys I don't think of this, right? I've been somebody that owned a business and lost a business. So overhead is something I consider. So when I know that the promoter's paying hourly for that venue and every minute kind of counts for us to get the hell out of that building, I don't mind. Like you'd see me still to the day I quit wrestling. I was still taking down chairs at the end of those shows. I might let the other boys handle the heavy lifting on the ring, but you'd see me and Chris Steele pulling chairs down until all the chairs were away.
Yeah, right? Pulling chair, and that's just it. Like I'm not just saying just the ring. Like to me,
it's everything.
Setting up a show and tearing down a show should be everybody, because then everybody's done sooner and everybody gets to go celebrate at Long Riders after the show.
Get to go spend your wage packet. Yeah, go spend your night's pay at Boston Pizza.
I love it. I love it. And then still have to come up with an extra $10 because you're short, but it's all good.
The other thing I'll tell you is it's important to do the ring, and I'll tell you a story. Because then you know what's involved, how the ring goes together, Because if somebody's not there, you need help. But not only that, you know where the dangerous parts of the ring are in a lot of ways, because people don't understand that not all rings are the same. They don't all bump the same. Not all the wood lays out the same. Sometimes you might have a broken plank in there that nobody realized until it was too late. So now you got, hey, there's a broken plank in the corner. One night I was working and somebody went to hit my head off the apron, and I'd never put that ring together. So, kind of to your point, I was doing chairs at that time and not a lot of ring, but I didn't realize that on the edge of that ring, there was a steel bracket that held the 2x12s in place.
Oh, Lord.
And when someone hits my head off on the apron, the fans are, 4 or 5 feet away. I put the gravy on that, right? Like that's a bump I take.
Yeah.
So I take the bump, and the fans for sure heard me say, "Oh, fuck," in the front row, because it hurt way more than it should have.
No
kidding. And I step back and I'm like, oh, it's got to be bleeding, So I hold my hand open and there's a little bit of blood in my hand. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. And all of a sudden I look and a sheet of blood comes out of my head.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
wild.
Yeah, it was a cut about that wide. It wasn't deep, but it was quite, it was quite wide on my head. So it was a tag match. Fortunately, I left Chris Steele to his own devices because, he can handle himself. He's a big guy. Ran to the back, grabbed some, Donnie Ace was back there. I grabbed some paper towel because that's super sanitary, stuck that on my head for a minute, kind of closed it, opened it up after about 30 seconds, and like a little trickle of blood. You can actually see the scar right there. A little trickle of blood came out. And so I was like, I think I'm okay. Put the paper towel back on, grabbed some wrist tape, wrapped it around my head, and ran back out and finished the match.
I was just about to ask, when did the wrist or duct tape show up? Because that's the old standby for backstage indie wrestling injuries.
Paper towels and black tape, man. Yeah. So, but the moral of the story isn't that I ran out and finished the match. To a certain degree, it's more so that I didn't know that there was a steel bracket on the end of that ring. So it's not a bad thing to know how the ring goes together.
Well, and how many times have you worked on a ring? And we're going inside here, but how many times have you worked on a ring where planks have been duct taped together because they're already split?
Yeah.
And we can't go get a new one right now. And I can only imagine when lumber prices spiked, what all the wrestling promoters were looking at. Like, it's going to cost me how much now? But
man. Well,
but it's one of those things where, again, you can have soft spots, you can have hard spots, and it never hurts to get to know your ring, from literally from the bolts up. So
yeah, well, and like I said, not every ring's the same, right? Like there was, to me, the Taj Mahal of rings for me was the Stampede ring that we came up with. And then, there was a ring that floated around for a while. I think it originally started out as Sin, Aiden Pringle's ring. Okay. And then somebody at Edmonton ended up with it. It ended up in Calgary. Kurt might have it, or somebody, Squiggy might have bought it. But that was a real spongy ring. And then the PWA ring I like that they use in Edmonton. And then the PWA ring that they use in Calgary. That's an important ring to watch them put together, because that ring is dog shit. It is.
I've never bumped in it, but I've heard that it's just the worst.
I watch your toes. I'm going to name drop, but I was sitting talking with Cody Rhodes in Edmonton when they had him booked in Edmonton, and I said, you know what, work the Edmonton shows. If I can give you any advice from a guy that you shouldn't take advice from, don't work the Calgary shows for no other reason as the ring's a killer. Like I'm telling him straight up, like it's the worst ring in the world.
Yeah.
So he kind of laughs it off. Fast forward, he takes a booking. Him and Brandy take a booking in Calgary. And, he wrestles in that ring, and I kind of sit in the back and I kind of look at him and smile. He just sort of shook his head and started laughing.
Well, yeah, but now after seeing what that guy does to himself on a weekly basis, it's like, oh, that ring was probably one of the easiest things he's ever done.
Yeah, because it wasn't still stuck to him when he left.
Yeah, it wasn't on fire or anything. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, that ring was a night off for that guy.
Oh, we talked about that on Sunday night's main event, actually, and the fact that this is indie wrestling 101. If you're gonna do the flaming table, take the damn rubber ring off the outside of the table, because otherwise you get a shell, you get a turtle shell like he has now. So
yeah, that's and man, I'm not against that wrestling. I want to make that very clear, because that's kind of shit I grew up watching to a certain degree. I mean, Stampede Wrestling wasn't doing flaming tables, but there was coal miner glove matches, and there was a lot of blood for sure. So I'm not opposed to it, but I'm really surprised they're doing that shit. Like, I'm really surprised they're pushing that hard.
I'm surprised they're doing it on television. And something else that we talked about on the show. Like, to me, that was an ultimate pay-per-view blow-off match. That feud in particular wasn't at that level, in my opinion. And it's something where do you go from there? I mean, back in the day, you remember this better than anybody, I'm sure. The steel cage was considered like the ultimate level of violence that you could ever do. And the coal miner's glove, I've only watched a couple of those in my life because honestly, it's like watching how sausage is made. Literally, you can just watch these guys just hammer each other in the face, and I'm like, "That's your face, dude! Like, what are you doing?" But
I have no problem telling you one of the first questions I asked Bruce Hart when I had the opportunity to work in the dungeon was, "Tell me about the coal miner's glove match."
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, as a kid, it was a match we mimicked, right?
Yeah.
Like Luther, I was telling you, Luther, his brother Ajax, and Crazy Dean, and myself, we would load a baseball glove with pennies because we didn't have a coal miner's glove. So we would load a baseball glove with pennies to give it some weight. God. And then whoever got the glove would get to beat the shit out of the boys with it, right? Like we did not fool around.
No kidding. To me, anything I did simulating wrestling was we figured out that if you cut out the bottom of a Safeway bag, you had a terrible Hulkamania t-shirt, So but wow, that's next level stuff, man. Taking the pennies and putting them in a baseball glove because the baseball glove won't hurt enough.
No.
How old were you then?
Man, I was not 12. I would have been 10 or 11 probably. So that would have made. Now think about this, because Luther was as tall as he is now, and he was like 15. Okay. He was always a monster. So, and then him and my brother were 3 years older than me, and I was a pipsqueak. So yeah, I was probably 10 or 11, and they would have been like 14, 15.
So you're 10 and like, yeah, this seems like a good idea. Yeah, this will be fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we beat the shit out of, but you didn't realize it was preparing you.
Preparing you for what?
To be able to take a beating later.
I guess.
Right? Here's what I tell people about pro wrestling, and this is really and truly, people, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag of, kind of what it takes to be a pro wrestling.
Okay.
You have to be willing. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Anybody can be a pro wrestler. You have to be willing to treat your body like a crash test dummy, and most people just aren't.
And it's funny you say that because this seems like the perfect time to bring up the time where I was training with you, and I think Ivan was there, and Yates and Don Ferguson and all these beauties were all there.
Right.
And as I recall, at one point I was pulled to the side because, I'm not a small guy, but I was surprisingly nimble for a fat kid, as I like to call it.
Well, and it doesn't look good when the ring announcer's bigger than all the boys.
Well, that was kind of part of it too. But it was one of those things where, I always wanted to wrestle. I grew up wanting to wrestle. And to this day, if I could do it now, I would still train up and do it. But right. It was one of those moments where I don't remember what we were doing. I think it was, you were teaching us how to do like the drop down, sit down bump off like a leg drop from the second rope or something. I don't remember what it was, but we had the crash pad there. And then we took that out to do the actual bump. And I think we were just going off first rope for that one. And the second time I went down and realized I'd had a pre-existing back injury before all this. That's actually what paid for my radio schooling was. Okay. It's like the least cool story ever. I'll take you back there first. So I was working a retail job and we were bringing stuff into the store from the back. It was in a mall. It was a Spencer gift store. Okay. And yeah. Back when they still,
that'd be a fun store.
It was a fun store until the place almost killed me. But we had a skid of back when they used to sell lava lamps. Do you remember where you go by Spencer Gifts and they had like a whole aisle of just lava lamps?
I think I bought my wife a lava lamp from like San Francisco the first year we were together.
They treated lava lamps there like Tiffany's does diamond necklaces. Like they had every color of the rainbow, every mounting bracket set you could get, and we would sell them like hotcakes because they probably cost $1 to make. And we were selling them for $70-$80 a pop. Wow. And so you get these things in, and of course we're selling them as like, premier lava lamps. That's a friggin' thing, whatever. Anyway. And so they built this skid, and it was coming off one of those trucks that has the hydraulic lift ramp that just kind of,
yeah.
And you know how those things usually get a little warped and bent after time?
Yeah.
Well, combine a warped, bent hydraulic ramp with an improperly built skid,
right? Which
just happens to have a bunch of heavy wax-filled oil lava lamp glass bulb things on one side. No. I did not break the lava lamp. The lava lamps damn near broke me.
Really?
Because what happens is the guy's lowering the thing, and then I hear him say, oh bleep, I turn around and this whole skid, it's wrapped and it's coming down on me and hits me and bends me backwards the way you're not supposed to bend.
Fuck.
So I'm out like this, completely stretched. My lower back gets crunched. And I was a big kid then, right? So I mean, I was not an idiot. I just didn't know what else to do. And so they lower the thing, but the rest of the skid has started pushing my arms back. And even to this day, I can only go back about yay far. But yeah, basically I had hyperextended a bunch of stuff. I had strained a lot of my muscles in my lower back, especially from that. And I mean, I survived it, but dear Lord, that was what caused that injury. Well, and that's just it. So fast forward to 2 years later, and I'm there with you guys, and I'm having a good time and everything, but I haven't been exercising. I'm a college kid. I don't care. And I'm having a blast. I'm bumping, I'm running ropes, I'm doing all this great stuff. And then sure enough, that one hits. And if you remember, I had to leave the ring because I basically had lost most of the motion in the left side of my body for about a half an hour. Oh, and I had to sit outside the ring. Yeah, so you've been hit in the head once or twice. Yeah, but this was the day I realized, okay, well, that I'm pretty sure that puts a kibosh on my wrestling career, because it was one of those things where, as you say, you got to be willing. I was willing to do it. But actually, this is where conversations with you and guys like Don and everything else, you don't have to. Take it easy, sit down, because when you're in that training position and you really want to wrestle, and you'll hear all the stories of, oh, he worked hurt, brother, he got through the match, brother. Yeah, but I'm in my early 20s and I have no wrestling career to speak of. So what am I really losing at that moment?
I always say, at what risk, right?
Yeah,
at what risk.
And that was actually what you said to me another time at a show, and it stuck with me, because that told me that you were a good guy. Because there's a lot of guys who be like, oh yeah, you should totally get cut up and bleed and everything else, and then you're like, why? It's like he's got a good point there, that Duke Durango. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was one of those things. I think I bladed once. You know what I mean? It was never a big thing for me. And I think excuse me, I was in like grade 8, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, when the AIDS pandemic hit.
Okay.
Right. So that was the first thing I understood of like bloodborne diseases.
Yeah.
So I was somebody at a very young age, was very aware of things like HIV and hepatitis. And fast forward years ahead, when I'm like 18, my mom is the director of something called the Sharp Foundation, which provides housing and funding hospices for people at that time that were dying of HIV/AIDS. And so it was something I was extremely aware of. So there was a point where I was kind of looking around and people are talking about bleeding, and I'm like, man, when's the last time any of us had like a hepatitis test?
Yeah.
So it was never one of those things I was willing to do. There was never, to me, there was never a big enough house. There was never enough money. There was certainly never enough money involved. There was never enough money involved to cut my head with a razor blade. That was never going to be a thing for me. In fact, I remember working with TJ in a cage match, and he came to me, and I don't know, to this day, I don't know what his feelings were on this, but he came to me before the match. He said, hey man, like, are we blading or anything? And I just looked at him and I was like, what do you think? Like, no. So I think, in my opinion, we went out and had a really good cage match, but I also know the fans hated it because we didn't bleed. And that's the truth.
Who told you they hated it? Who told you they hated it because they didn't?
I felt it in my heart of hearts.
Well, and speaking of heart of hearts, the
truth is, I've never seen the match back.
Well, may I remind you, one of the greatest cage matches from WWF was considered to be Brett and Owen, and there was not a single drop of color there. So I mean, I don't know, to a degree back in the day, I think it was expected. When you get to the level of what they're doing now in WWE and AEW, I mean, AEW's just like, they got so much blood. It's like watching The Shining sometimes. Like, it's just crazy, but I think that's where you have to ask yourself as a fan, what are you really here for? Like, are you here to watch, the best in simulated combat, if you want to call it. I don't even like that term, but you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you're there to watch a story, the culmination of a feud. It's 2021, man. We know there's diseases. We know and it's indie wrestling for the longest time. There's no screening. There's no protective gear. Right. You know, they're not handing out ponchos to the first 5 rows. It's nothing like that. So, I mean, what do you really want then? Do you just want to see people bleed all over each other? I'm sure there's websites you can go to for that. At the same time, does blood have a place in a match? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. I was going to say, I don't want to totally piss on it because I do believe there can be a time and a place. And it's got to be done right. And it's got to be, you know, it's got to be like in the blow off angle. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be one time at WrestleMania, somebody bleeds. So it just means something. Right. That to me is the biggest. You know, having said that, I'm sitting here in my basement, very comfortable, getting old and very soft. So it's very easy for me to say somebody else should do that.
And I say this being such a weirdo that in my memorabilia and my collectibles, one of my most prized possessions is a turnbuckle pad from WrestleMania 8, which we figured out has a bit of Bret's blood on the corner from his match against Piper, right? So, I mean, when you get it, it matters. It means something.
Yeah.
But even then, that show had 2 matches that had color that night between Bret and then you had Flair later on, right? And
well, do you remember at the time of when Bret was working with Stone Cold? And that was a time when I believe, if we look back, there was like a blade moratorium at that time. There was no blood, and they had blood in that match. You know what I mean? And to this day, I can't see where, you know, they did it so well. I didn't really see where Austin gaffed himself, but it was done so well. There had been so little blood at the time. It was done perfectly. And to me, that's when you use that.
Do you know the rest of that story?
I don't.
So I
probably should, but
yeah. So Austin's talked about this. Bret's talked about it. Me being the ultimate Bret mark, I mean, I've probably heard it. But... Tell me more, Hitman.
Yeah.
But the story is that Bret and Austin were going through this match, and they both agreed like there's got to be color in this, and Bret's like, just do it, and I'll take the heat for it, because I mean Bret was on top of the world then, right? Yeah. So he could do whatever he wanted, get away with it, and sure enough, they go out, they do the shot. And, you know, I mean, Austin becomes the iconic image to this day. One of the top 5 images of Stone Cold Steve Austin is that shot of him screaming, trying to get out of the sharpshooter, blood dripping down his face. And he said flat out, Bret has said, and Austin both said, that match would not have been the same were it not for the color, were it not for the blood. So it's one of those situations where, again, Bret knew there had to be something, because Bret's a storyteller, you know, and if you're a good storyteller in a match, and you have the blood, which just is that cherry on top of this horrible sundae, you know, it's definitely a great addition. You know, I remember even just being a kid watching, you know, matches like, Hogan and Savage, WrestleMania 5, right? A little bit of color comes out there, and compared to the Austin match, or compared to even what we see on some weekly TV now, it was nothing. But back then it was something, because you knew this was how hard these guys were fighting.
Yeah, it meant something. And I think that to me is the importance of all, I guess, if we want to use the term, all hardcore wrestling. It's not that I don't think ECW was amazing. It was what ECW, it brought wrestling to a whole different level, and people have to concede that it changed the business to a certain degree. So I don't want to take away from hardcore at all, but at the same time, the problem with hardcore wrestling is you have no blowout matches. You have no way to just blow off a match, because you're doing everything in every match. So that is really my only issue with it. So you look and you have these, you know, that's also my issue with hardcore titles, quite frankly. I do not like a hardcore title. Like, you're taking all the good blow off matches on a weekly basis.
Well, and I think that's a challenge that a lot of wrestling these days is running into. Like we talked about the Cody match already lighting himself on fire, basically, and all these other things. There's a point where it just stops being special.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you watched War Games this past weekend.
I did not.
But they had 2 War Games matches, and both matches, just like this unlimited amount of plunders making its way into the ring.
Right.
And it's like, it's not special anymore. Like, there was a time where if a steel chair made it into the ring, one chair,
yeah,
it would be mind boggling that this wrestler got away with using the chair. And now it's like, okay, well, there's the kendo stick. We know that'll do a bit of damage. And there's a chair, and that'll do a bit of damage. There's a garbage can. Oh, there's a table. Okay. Oh, they're lighting the table on fire. Okay. The table has spikes on it. Okay. Now there's a big concrete ball rolling down a hill at them. Like, where's it going to stop? Right.
Yeah. And that's always my concern is, do you remember when Michael Richard Blaze did a high spot where he did the Spanish fly off the top rope through a table on the floor?
Yes.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And to me, it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in the business. Like, to me, the skill it takes to pull something like that off and not die is people just don't understand. So, but I remember a fan saying, like, but if you get hurt, is it worth it? You know, and the connotation of the comment was like, at an indie show or at a PWA show, you know, if something happens, is it worth doing that high spot? And my response to the comment was, if you do that high spot at WrestleMania and something goes wrong, it isn't worth it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, when shit goes wrong, when you're doing a backflip from a top rope to the floor, that doesn't sound like much, but when you're standing up there, your feet are what, 12 feet off the ground, 10, 12 feet off the ground.
Yeah.
Then you jump. So you're now 14, 15 feet in the air coming down. You've got to land. Like, people just, because they see it so commonplace, I think they don't understand the risk involved in doing that stuff. And to me, that's where I give it so much respect. Because, like, to me, it's like, Jordy, would you ever want to see Michael Richard Blaze do that again? I would not. I don't think he should do that again. But would I watch it because I know it's spectacular? 100%. Right?
Well,
I got to be honest.
How many shows have you been at, though, where those spots don't work out? I can think of 3. Between 2 in Alberta and 1 in Saskatchewan, where I've seen a high spot go wrong.
Right.
And in some cases, you never saw the guy again.
Right.
Or there were major injuries, you know, and I don't know if I want to name names or not, but, you know, there was one case where a wrestler who was a friend of mine took an incredibly high jump off of anybody who was there will know the show we're talking about, but jumped off of the basketball net onto a guy on the table. Yeah. and I can't remember if it was both ankles, but I mean, seriously buggered up their ankles for basically the rest of their life, you know?
Yeah. I think that was about the end of his career. I could be full of shit, but I don't think he went too much after that.
Well, and that's just it. You know, that's a guy, you know, love the guy to this day. I mean, just a good dude, but just
one of the best guys I ever met in the business.
Yeah, hands down. Another guy, same venue, went to do a Asai moonsault on the outside, slipped off the rope, landed on his neck, and that was the last I ever saw him. You know, he came fine after that. And then in Regina, when I was down there doing shows, we had a guy just go to do basically a suicide dive, and went to do a flip over the top rope basically, and nobody caught him. And he landed on a very hard floor and was out for a long time. So, you know, we as fans, when this stuff works, of course we're all over it. But going back to your comment about if somebody screws up at WrestleMania, let's always remember Brock Lesnar, WrestleMania 19, right? Landed on his face. And you have that moment where you're like, oh God, you know, what did we just watch? And that to me is always the fine line between enjoying wrestling for what it is, and then again asking ourselves, and this is going to sound like such a weak thing to say to some people, but I don't care, what do we look for as fans? Do we want an amazing display of athleticism that looks like 2 people are out to kill each other, or do we want actually somebody to get hurt? And that's a real fine line that I think some people sometimes blur a bit, and that worries me. So
yeah, no, I agree 100%. Like, there's you know, there's a reason in hockey they don't want to hit each other. You know, they want shoulder checking, but they don't want you shoulder checking each other in the face with the shoulder pad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a limit to everything. And I think that it's, you know, and going back to even the hardcore example is you can only push the envelope so far before it just becomes too dangerous. In fact, I'm going to retell a story, but I won't use his name. And it's actually the basketball kid, the basketball net kid,
the basketball kid. That's
yeah, we'll call him the basketball kid. And again, a guy that I absolutely love, but he comes to me one day and he says, "Hey man, would you ever take a German suplex off a ladder?" And I start laughing and I say, "No." And he goes, "Would you give me a German suplex off a ladder?" And I start laughing and I say, "No." Because there's a certain point where we got to protect each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, not only that, I also say, like, if I'm not willing to take it, there is at no point where I'm going to expect you to, or probably be inclined to do it to you if I'm not willing to.
But see, that's an interesting point that you bring up, because that's what I'm talking about when I say that, you know, you've influenced a lot of young careers. Sorry, I know my light's flickering here. I'm trying to figure out how to fix that.
Yeah.
But you've influenced enough different wrestlers throughout their career, I'm sure, where even though there's been those ones that have had injuries and had problems, I'm sure you've actually prolonged a lot of careers as well, just by saying that, because where you will say no, a lot of wrestlers will be like, yeah, toss me through that, and then I'll throw you through this, and then after you German me off of the ladder, you know, smash me right through the thing. And to a degree, again, that's cool, but where does it stop? You know, it's just,
well, and for what? Like, again, if it goes wrong, like if I'm giving you a German suplex off a ladder and something goes wrong, the focal points, our heads and our necks.
Yeah,
like there's no slight miss on that. You're fucked if that move goes south. No matter how easily you fuck it up or how hard you fuck it up, you're in deep shit.
I mean, don't get me wrong, indie wrestling is known for buying the most high quality ladders that don't have large metal shards sticking out of them, or are made of wood from 1941 that could, you know, disintegrate on impact. But
I like the ones that have a 200-pound rating on them. Those are my favorites. Like 220-pound guys standing on the thing.
Or if you're doing a ladder match these days, you know, you got 6 guys all climbing up the same ladder.
Yeah.
But that's just the thing. Like, even when you watch them on the big shows, you know, like the WWE ladders, I'm not sure if they're still doing this or not, but I remember seeing the prop guys outside of Monday Night Raw taking the big orange fiberglass ladders that you get at Home Depot or Rona or whatever, and they're spray painting them silver, or they're spray painting them black. Right. I mean, the steel struts are there, but the frame is fiberglass. So even if you go back and watch some of the older matches where they do break the table, that's a fiberglass ladder they're breaking their body through. Yeah. And
held together with steel struts and steel rivets.
And that's if it holds together. Like, that's if you know, God help you if you catch an arm or something in that. Like,
actually, in fairness, they'd be aluminum rivets and aluminum struts.
Okay, well, our
so much better.
The aluminum industry out there, but for confusing it. But I mean, same thing. It's just, you know, the amount of risk and danger that we see these days in hardcore matches or in ladder matches and stuff like that. I think it's important for fans to take a step back and realize, you know, this is some pretty heavy shit we're watching. So.
You know what, man? Even to take it one step further and start talking about like the NFL. I don't know how much football you watch. I don't watch a ton, admittedly. So, you know, I'm going to approach this cautiously, but I've been hearing for years that the NFL or fans of the NFL would like to see more games in the NFL. Now, you see these football players at the end of their careers, their bodies are destroyed. Do you know what I mean? And people say, well, what's 2 more games a year? Well, if your body can hold out 2 more games a year, it's just that much more wear and tear. Like, people don't understand what changes in an athlete's quality of life at a certain point. What, you know, people say, well, they make so much money, they do, you know, and I've always said, like, first of all, if that's the money that's generated, I would rather see it go to the athletes than the ownership, to be quite honest with you. So if we can work that out, but a lot of times there's not enough money in the world. I mean, yeah, they have nice homes and stuff, but their quality of life's dog shit, right? Like, you know, people don't understand what it's like to wake up literally every day for 2 years. And this is when I was still active wrestling. For 2 years, I couldn't do just a full body stretch, you know, where you're like flex your toes and put your arms up in the air. I couldn't do that for 2 years. Just, you know, just various injuries of one thing or another. And I'm on the low end of that scale.
Mm-hmm. And that's where, you know, even even in life in general, though, take it away from wrestling for a second. I think that all of us need to do a better job of taking care of ourselves in the long run here, because I mean, I learned that. I mean, I've been doing radio, and so I can honestly say I'm doing a lot of heavy lifting in the last couple decades here. But at the same time, it's a situation where you realize if you're not sleeping properly, if you're not eating properly, you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to feel that shit later on down the road.
For sure.
Now, add to this the compounding factors of, you know, high intensity sports impact injuries, you know, or whether you're getting blows to the head, or if you're, you know, even if you don't take a single shot to the head your whole life, your ribs, your back, your whole alignment of your body can be screwed up, you know?
Well, you know who I'm worried about, man? my concern for the next generation, the next generation of pro wrestlers, those kids are fucked. Most of the kids coming up right now will not have 25 and 30 year wrestling careers. That won't be a thing. Those kids are going to wrestle, but I'm worried about the CrossFitters. Wait till you see those guys in like 20 years, the people that were on the first wave of CrossFit.
Right.
Wait till you see what those guys do to their bodies within the next 20 years. Their bodies are going to be so worn out. They're not going to be able to do anything.
I just can't wait to see the comments now that you've talked about CrossFitters in a negative tone.
Wow. To coin a phrase from Letterkenny, CrossFit, you can cross fuck off.
Yeah.
We did it when we were kids. Our
once.
coach did it with us. When I was a kid, we did what we essentially called it like plyometrics. Do you know what I mean? It's essentially what they call CrossFit now. They use more weights and a more diverse exercise group, obviously, but no disrespect to it. If you want to get in shape, CrossFit. But if you're going to be like a competitive CrossFitter, yeah, good luck to you, man.
Yeah, well, that's just it. I mean, different things work for different folks, you know, and switching gears, and this is where I get another cheap plug in. I remember years ago when I started running, you actually texted me or messaged me or something and said, brother, you're going to screw up your knees for the rest of your life. You know, your running's going to kill you. Da, da, da. And the funny thing is, Duke, is that to a degree you were correct. However, I'm stubborn for one, and for two, I did have an experience that just about killed me running in San Diego. That was not knee related though. It was heart related, and it's a whole other story.
Yeah, because there's so many beats in there, and then you get them all racing, running around. Well, stop wasting heartbeats, man.
Well, here was the thing. I had a genetic malfunction or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And what it was an extra note on my heart. And so where most heartbeats would just go like so, this extra node would kick in and be off time. So imagine having one spark plug that's just going against your regular pattern, right? Yeah. So that's what happened to me. And I ended up getting taken off course, you know, passed out, black. It was the first time, only time I've ever blacked out before, where literally your eyes are open, but you're seeing nothing because you're not getting enough blood to your brain. Oh, dude, it's a crazy story that I actually use now for what I've coined the back of the pack running club, which I know you've seen me post about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
But what I've kind of done working with really good running coaches who understand that, you know what, people like me or people who have never ran before, have never been fit before, we're not going to fit into your training pattern. We're not going to fit into the same style of training that the person that's on the cover of Runner magazine is going to. And through the last 3 years, I've actually managed to figure out this course now where you can do things, you can modify things. And I believe this goes for everything, not just running, but anything physical. If you are willing to have an understanding of your own body and not push yourself to the point where you think you have to compete against the people who are on those magazine covers, because you know what, you're never going to be there. You're not going to be, you might someday, but when you go into a CrossFit class, you know, it's push, push, push. And if you're going in with some frame of reference for your body and you have some prior training experience, good on you. But I would love to see a CrossFit that actually comes at it from a back of the pack approach where it's like, okay, we're going to start you real gentle because we have to train you up to the entry level. Yeah. And that's what we've done with this. And so I've got I've got over 100 runners now in the last 3 years, including a pandemic year, that I got across the finish line of a 5K. And now we have a 10K course as well that I've had people finish. So, I mean, the fact that I'm training people to run, first of all, is laughable if you really think about it. But
I don't think it is, man. I don't think it is.
But that's just it, though. Once you understand that people have all kinds of challenges besides just showing up to the gym.
Yeah.
And even showing up is that big obstacle. Sure. But
I think getting to the gym's the hardest part for most people. Really. Just getting your ass there.
Well, and that's always the message that I give to my runners as well, is just show up, show up. We'll worry about the run once you get here, but it's one of those things where we had our gingerbread run here, a store here in Saskatoon puts it on every year, called Brain Sport. And the guy, Brian, that runs the place, he actually bought in on the back of the pack concept, and he's an elite runner. He's one of these guys that never thought about people like me trying to run before.
Right.
And him and his store have been wonderful. This is not a plug. This is legitimately a guy who has won Saskatchewan marathons, looking at me going, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you?
But these are the guys we want to plug, man. In my opinion.
Yeah,
that's the guy you want to plug their store.
Absolutely.
Right.
So if you're in Saskatoon, you're looking for runners, Brain Sport, go to them and say hi to Brian. Tell him Mike sent you. But
he'll only add 10 points onto the price.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. That guy. Yeah. But he, I told him, I said, from a business standpoint, you're leaving a lot of table on the money, or a lot of money on the table, if you don't let people like me try and come run. Because if you're just focusing on the elite runner, you're ignoring an entire market. And I think
what percentage of population are elite runners? 1?
Well, that's just it, right?
If that. Do you know?
Well, there's a lot of athletes though, and there's a lot of people that will rely on that for football, track, stuff like that.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
But at the same time, if you're going into a store because your doctor says you need to get some New Balances to fix your pronation because you're walking on your ankles, a la Iron Sheik WrestleMania 19, but that's the thing though, right? And you can get a proper set of shoes that'll fix that. Why stop there?
Yeah.
Why not try and do something? I mean, I've had people, dude, from all ilks, I mean, all builds, people that look like they could run miles around you, come in and get gas 30 seconds in. And meanwhile, I got people that are bigger than me who come in and they follow the program, they trust it, and all of a sudden they're running their 5K, and they're running it straight too. No walk breaks, no nothing like that.
Right.
Just running straight. And so it's all about allowing yourself to have a little bit of patience with your own body, because your body is going to, this from training, your body's going to piss you off all the time.
Yeah.
You're going to think, I can't do this. And if you subscribe to that, then you're right, you won't. But if you just accept that, okay, this is going to be a challenge, you can do it. And that's where I think that mentality really helps out with my runners, and then with honestly anybody who's trying to do anything.
And I think, you hear it time and time again, and it's so cliche, right? But your mind will always quit before your body does. Mm-hmm. There's never been a point where I've quit on stuff for sure. And there's very few times I can say my body said that's enough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Most of us say that's enough. It's not that your body quits. It's that you said that's enough. You know what I mean?
I have a thing that I ask some of my runners, because we'll get into the longer runs, and I will tell them, okay, ask yourself this question. Do you really need to stop, or do you want to stop?
Exactly.
And this isn't from a case of, come on, push it till it hurts, brother. It's literally asking yourself, because your mind will turn on you.
Oh, yeah.
Your brain will just go 100% heel turn on you and be like, you can't do this. You should just stop. Yeah. You should just walk.
Why are you doing this anyway? You're not training for the Olympics. Just shut it down.
Exactly. And your logic side will say, yeah, that makes sense. But then you realize, you know what? I'm a little gassed, sure, but my legs feel fine. My back feels, I'm okay. I can keep going. And I've had a number of runners do that, and they've asked themselves that question. They make it to the end. So it's pretty cool, man.
Well, when I run, man, when I'm training, I hate running. I'll be the first one to tell you, I hate running. But if I have to, now if I do it on a treadmill, because it's got some bounce to it. Yeah. I don't run outside anymore. And what I do when I would run outside, you get tired and you want to quit. Exactly to your point. So you just pick a point up the road, like, okay, if I could just make that red house, I'll be fine.
Yes.
And before you get to that red house, you pick the next point.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna make it to the red house. If I could just make it to, if I could just make it to the next street sign, I'll be okay. And just keep it's short-term goals. And it sounds so funny, but you're literally going block to block. Right? That's what life is, man.
There's those stone garbage can covers they have in like parks, city parks and stuff, where it looks like pebbles are around a garbage can. So there's one in Horlack Park in Edmonton that when I first started running, over a decade ago now, marked about the 1 kilometer mark of this 2 kilometer loop of Horlack Park. And that's where we would time. And brother, I tell you, every time I saw that garbage can, I was like heaven, because you're like, okay, I just got to see that trash can one more time and then I'm done, So I get it. And lampposts, are another great marker. It's like, okay, 3rd lamppost, well, 4th lamppost, well, 5th lamppost, So just
we just trick your mind into you just reestablish the goal.
Exactly.
Right. And I think, I don't know, man, I think it sounds cheesy, but I was talking to somebody fairly recently about this, and that I was never real great at amateur wrestling. I want to make that clear, but I was like pure dog shit until I learned to set a goal.
Okay.
I just show up to the wrestling room and wrestle, and hopefully, hopefully I won, win, lose or draw. I would do my best, but I had no plan. I had no goal for success. I just went and trained, and I trained hard. There was other kids I could kick their ass in practice all day and then go to a tournament and get my ass kicked because I just didn't have the right mentality. And it took me, no one did it for me. I had to figure out, okay, by this time I want to be the city champion. By this time I'd like to be a provincial champion. Maybe I can win the nationals. So once I started setting goals, it changed, right? By in grade 10, I don't think I won a match. When I was 19, by the time I was 19, I was ranked number 6 in Canada. So that's how, goal setting can change things like that.
Who is maybe an odd source to hear this from a running guy, but someone I heard say the exact same words was Drew Carey. And It was in the weirdest place. I went down to the Price is Right in LA. This was before I had my big heart thing running in San Diego and got pulled off course. But it was funny because he said almost exactly what you're saying. And he's talking about how he set the goals and then he's got something to work for. He's got something to work towards, because if you're just going to the gym and you're just lifting the lift, every once in a while, I'm sure you see it too. These guys will post their, I hit this target today, and you think, oh, gym rats being gym rats. No, those are people showing off their goals that being achieved. And it's a small goal to some. It's like, oh, good for you. You lifted 325. But what if that person's been struggling at 300 for the last year,
Yeah.
And so they brag about that lift, or in some cases, like, how many of my runners posted, I ran a 5K today, and I tell them that. I say, brag that shit up, because not for the sake that nobody else is doing it, for the fact that you set a goal, you achieved it. You set that mindset. And the more you set those goals, and this goes back to the Drew Carey thing, the more you set those goals, the more you're going to see you can accomplish.
Well, you know what I meant? There's a point where I will say, because no one else is doing it, right?
Yeah.
Like think in your general life, how many people do you know of your friends, not your running friends, your friends that run 5Ks? I bet you can count them on one hand.
I got a lot of friends that have told me that they could never do it. And then I always come back and say, well, come with me.
Yeah. Going back.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Right. But so not a lot of people, again, circling back to pro wrestling. Are you willing?
Yeah.
Anyone can run a 5. If you want to feel like an asshole, if you literally want to feel like a total asshole, say I can't run a 5K to Terry Fox. Right? That guy ran a lot of K on one leg. So there's no reason if I said if you literally don't want to run a 5K, admit that to yourself. Just say it's not something. It's not what I want to do. I don't want to run a 5K.
And that's fine.
That's get out of here with that shit. I'm not running that. And fair enough. But don't give me this bullshit. I can't. No, you won't. Period.
We have been encountering this woman who walks around the area that we train in. And it's funny because I'm very much about PMA, positive mental attitude, right? And I try and ingrain that into the runners. And I actually say, if you come into this club and you start smack talking yourself or the running process or anything like that, then I'm going to politely ask you to leave, because that's not what we're about.
Right.
And this woman yesterday, when we were doing the gingerbread run 5K, sure enough, we end up passing by her, and she looks at us, and it was actually the first really cold day we've had here this year was when we did the run. So yay us. But she's like saying this stuff, and she's like literally trying to get us all to agree with her. She's like, oh, it's too cold to be doing this. It's it's too cold for you to be running. And literally when she got to me, and I think she knows that I don't like it when she says that now, because she looks at me and goes, it's way too cold to be doing what you're doing. And I said, this is the best thing going today, baby. And just kept going, right? So
well, and it probably is. That's the thing, right? Yeah. Just, I remember there's an old Suicidal Tendencies song called You Can't Bring Me Down. And there's always a lyric that kind of, I was a young guy, and it always struck out to me, like, just because you don't like it, don't mean it ain't no good.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, do I like Celine Dion? No, not a fan. Not a fan. But will I say Celine Dion's no good? That would never happen. Yeah. Right. Yeah. She's good at what she does. 90 million records sold. Can't lie. I'm just not a fan. Do I love running? No. Does that mean running sucks? No. Like, come on.
I heard you want to say yes there, but no, it's fine.
It does. Well, the sarcastic dick in me wanted to, just to be an asshole. But what? And then why do other people always have to yuck your yum?
Exactly. Right? We live in a world where we love to tear each other's shit down. And I've kind of taken the approach, and this goes back to wrestling, because how many wrestling podcasts and shows and everything else just sit there and bitch for an hour about how everything sucks. And then why are you watching?
Yeah.
If you hate something that much, it's not because it sucks. It's because you're not getting your way. You didn't write the script. You didn't come up with the story. And I find that now with movies, especially, people are deciding whether a movie is good without even seeing it now.
Right.
Because, they heard a thing about it. You know me, dude.
They're just going to do this. They're just going to make all the characters suck. They're just going to make them super snowflakey. So there's no point seeing it.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. Did you see the 2016 Ghostbusters movie?
I did not. In fairness, though, I'm not a huge fan of that franchise.
That's fair, because I am the ultimate fan of that franchise.
And I know you are. So I don't see, I saw the first two when I was a young guy, right?
Yeah.
But after, I'm not somebody that has nostalgia for movies like that.
Yeah. And so for me, I was one of the first people to just not understand why everybody was just dogging this movie.
Right.
We live in this quote woke world and everything else, and it's like, the girls are being Ghostbusters. Well, that makes no sense. I can't wrap my head around that. Dude, shut up. Friggin' movie, man.
They could never handle the Ghostbuster gun, them girls.
It's a neutrino one, sir. But
sorry,
I have two right over here.
I apologize. I apologize for my transgression, sir.
It's fine. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, we just live to hate.
Yeah.
And it's just, as wrestling fans, like, it's funny because I come in, I have to do a review of Raw tomorrow with Jason Agnew, who's the host of Sunday Night's Main Event. And Jason's been great. And he puts up with me because I actually come in and to be honest, a lot of the guys on the podcast network, not alone when we're doing the actual show on TSN, but when they watch Raw, they just do it so begrudgingly, and they just hate it. And don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of times I'll sit through a Monday Night Raw and go, what did I just watch?
Yeah.
But there's always something good. There's always got to be something good. And that's what I look forward to. And if you get what some people say is a great Raw or a great SmackDown or a great Impact, Dynamite, whatever, that's your reward for being a wrestling fan. It's not always going to be good. It's weekly. It's oversaturated. There's so much damn wrestling out there. Yeah. It can't all be good, and it can't all go your way.
Yeah. Try writing 500 to 700 hours of television, a year.
Try
That's a
writing
lot.
500 to 700 words right now. And have it be
I can
good.
barely say 500
You know
words.
what I mean, though? But that's just it. We take everything for granted, and I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong. There'll be times where I'll come out of a movie and I'll be like, oh, that didn't go the way I hoped it would. But I saw a movie. It was fine. You know, nobody died. I'm good.
Well, there's a lot of times I walk away from a movie and I say, you know what? Like the acting was good. The production was really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't like the movie or I didn't understand it. Like I saw that movie and maybe I'm stupid. Feel free to at me and explain this movie to me because I didn't really get it. But I think it's called Tenet. It was out fairly recently in theaters. I watched the movie. And I seen it with 3 other people and we all walked out and I was like, what? I didn't get it. But it was still a really cool movie. I just didn't quite get it.
That was the first release that came out to theaters after pandemic really hit, right? Because they were all showing just old movies all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so Tenet came out and everybody went and saw Tenet and nobody got it. So
Yeah,
like
I had no idea. And again, if somebody got it, by all means, you will not be mansplaining. Tell me what that I actually seen it. It came up. It's out on like Crave or HBO or whatever right now.
Right.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to watch that movie again by myself so I can rewind and figure out what the hell's going on.
Dude, there's still movies that I watch to this day and I don't have a clue what the hell just went on. Like even with the new Spider-Man coming up, because there's a Doctor Strange involvement, I know I'm going to be like, huh? So wait a minute, there's another dimension. And like, it's like when they get too deep for me,
all the bad people from all the dimensions come, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be this big crazy schmoz, and I'm like, okay, well, I love a big crazy schmoz. Give me a Royal Rumble if you can, but
yeah,
at the same time, I'll be like, ooh, key, I got to really pay attention to this one because otherwise it won't make sense. There were I do these things now just as kind of a larf, 5-minute movie reviews. I've done a couple of them now. And I've actually got a new one coming out on Red Notice, The Rock's latest movie with Ryan Reynolds and Gal Gadot there. And but I went and saw the new Resident Evil movie the other day. And I don't know if you're a fan of the Resident Evil games or anything, but big zombie games from PlayStation.
I remember playing the very first one.
Yeah, okay. And so this movie is basically an ode to those first 2 games. And what they do is they basically take the characters from the first 2 games and they replay all the cutscenes in a movie, which is fine, but it's almost too simple for me now. Whereas watching the old Resident Evil movies, the ones with Mia Jovovich, those lost me after a while, and I've watched them all 100 times. Like I love zombie movies, I love Mia Jovovich, I love all of it, but I'm just like, okay, so who's the bad guy and why? And I mean.
The best zombie movie ever is Shaun of the Dead. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
I love that shit.
That's a fantastic movie.
And I'm somebody that refuses to watch zombie movies. I just we'll just run away from them.
Did you watch the one that Batista was in recently?
No.
What the hell was it called? Something about battle or something. It's on Netflix, anyways.
Yeah,
that was a weird movie because that was one of those movies where I won't give you a spoiler on it, but some of the old tropes, they just aren't followed at all, and you're kind of watching it like, what happened there? So
yeah, and people don't understand like that kind of continuity. Like that all of a sudden you got a vampire that doesn't react to a crucifix. And it's like, come on, man. That's like home free. There's got to be certain standards.
Yeah. Or the zombies that can run now, like World War Z was one that had them where not only do they run, but they would stack on top of each other so they could get over walls, they can get up buildings and stuff because they would just constantly just be tearing over each other. So, I mean, little twists like that are interesting, but this Resident Evil movie, for example, not that deep. Like if you're a fan, watch it on streaming. If you're a fan of that old game, it'll make you want to play the game more. And I think that's honestly why that movie was made, was because it throws a lot back to the games.
Is that like I'm so simple. The other day I was looking, did you ever play a game called Medal of Honor on PlayStation?
Yes.
It's like a single person, one guy with a gun going through killing stuff. That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah. And that's, now it's Call of Duty where it's like that, but you have to have your 5 buddies on headset with you and you're all going on like real missions. It's like, just give me a gun and let me walk around.
That's my whole thing, man. Like literally the only thing I have a PlayStation. I play probably, I don't know if I said in a week I played an hour and a half. I'm probably in the ballpark. I play like 3 games of hockey a week, 5-minute periods. So I'm playing for maybe 25 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
That's all I play because I just can't find I don't want to have to control a football team full of guys.
These guys that love doing the roster stuff and the general manager mode and everything.
Oh,
that's a special talent. I got to give credit to that. Like I'm a big devil in the details sort of guy,
right.
But to care that much about your fake football team on your PlayStation, that's a next level commitment.
Yeah, I just want to turn my brain off. That's why I play those things, right? And so that's why I like those Medal of Honor games. You literally just walk around, find some stuff, find a gun, zoom in, shoot a Nazi in the head, continue on with your day.
Say all this though, and I can't understand why people would spend so much time. I was like, remember the hours you used to spend on creator wrestler mode, Mike? Yeah, I spent a lot of time making creator wrestlers. I could probably make a Dirty Duke Durango right now if I wanted to.
Why do I have a feeling in about the next week I'm going to get this avatar to my inbox?
Next week, dude. By the end of the night, it'll be there. I was going to figure out how to make him wear a towel to the ring. Best entrance gear in the history of wrestling, by the way.
And you know what? I've had so many people make fun of that, and it's because they don't. And please, I hope I'm not being insulting. Do you have any idea where I would have gotten that from?
Mike Tyson.
100%.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's lost on so many people, is I wanted to be. I kind of, there was a certain point where I guess I wanted to be like a Stone Cold. And I only say this because he said in an interview where Mike Tyson went to the ring and he walked into the ring and he had black trunks, black boots. There was no fanfare. There was no robes. There was no smoking lights. He walked in, he took his towel off. He knocked a bitch out in 11 seconds and go back to the locker room. I loved that. You'd see everyone come in with the big flashy robes, right? And he's black, just a black towel, bitch. Right. That's where I got it from. And actually, something really cool is my mother-in-law was the one that would she would get the towels and cut them for me and then sew the thing so the the collar was
the head hole wouldn't. Yeah.
So those towels were all actually handmade by my mother-in-law and embroidered by Bill Bell from Stampede Wrestling.
I was gonna say you did the Stone Cold thing at first where you came out with just the black towel and then all of a sudden you went flashy and got them embroidered. I remember the Dirty Duke Durango on them. Yeah. Just your little SCSA on the side. Right?
That's why I started making money, man.
got that embroidery money coming in.
Yeah, that's when my missus would be like, okay, I guess you can get the embroidery now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell us what you're doing now. Obviously, you and I talked. You're not doing a ton in radio these days. What's going on? I know you're on a national podcast. Let's talk about that.
Well, it's not even a podcast. It's still a radio show. So
even better.
Yeah. So it's a bit of both, actually. So
okay.
As most shows are these days, you have the show and then you have the podcast.
Right.
So the show is actually a show that has roots going back 25 years back. If you remember the show Live Audio Wrestling back in the day, that was kind of like Jeff Merrick started it way back. Jason Agnew was on there. Dan the Mouth Labransky, all these guys go way, way back with this show. And then it was when TNA/Impact was bought, Anthem had the rights to Live Audio Wrestling. So they ended up originally, my understanding was the Fight Network, where a lot of these guys were working, let these guys go. Or reassign them to other places, and then some of them started off their own wrestling shows, and then Jason and Dan and the rest of the crew switched the show to Sunday night's Main Event. Live Audio Wrestling was allegedly, and according to the popular lore, was supposed to be brought back as part of Impact's big rebranding with Anthem. And they were going to get Jeremy Borash to host it. And as the story goes, Borash then took a job with WWE Creative working on NXT stuff. So he GTFO'd and he's a producer down there now.
Well, all I can say is if it's any indicator, I think probably Borash might want to keep his resume handy.
Well, you know what, though? I mean,
it's not excellent. And I don't want to just be a negative Nelly, but holy shit, did they change that?
Well, you know what, though? Go back and watch the War Games from last night, because I'll tell you right now, that was a good show. I don't know when it's airing, but the last War Game show was pretty good. But this show, basically, this great live audio wrestling show, basically doesn't exist anymore, except for the fact that now it's called Sunday Night's Main Event.
Okay.
It's airing across Canada on TSN radio stations and also on some news talk stations. We're in Alberta, we're in Ontario, we're in Quebec. You can get us in everywhere online, obviously, snmeradio.com. And then for as little as $1 a week, you can hop on the Patreon, and that gets you at least 7 shows a week. Sometimes there's little bonus shows thrown in as well. And that's reviews from an entire panel of guys and girls who come in. And, you know, there's your Raw recap, which I'll be doing tomorrow morning with Jason. There's the Dynamite one, which I did last week with Dan. There's been, you know, the Smack Daddies from out east, a couple of dads who review SmackDown the next day. They do a great show. You've got all these wonderful shows. Dan Lavransky's a big music guy, like a big music guy. His background of his Zoom conversations is all vinyl, and it's all his. Got thousands of records, right? So he does a show, Dr. Mouth's big music show, and it's just a ton of fun, man. So back in the day when you and I first met, and I was doing radio school, I had created a show that followed after some other guys who were doing a wrestling radio show, and frankly they were doing it right. They were just not taking life too seriously and having fun. I thought this was going to be my ticket to get into WWE, you know. So I was like, I'm going to be a pro. Yeah, I took it way too seriously at sometimes, but I you know, I had some cool guests and some stuff like that. You were on it. And so the dream was always to have a wrestling radio show, and now I'm a part of one. And I gotta say, man, after almost 20 years in the biz, I've never heard myself happier, I think. And that's not a knock. I've had a great career and a great run, but just getting to sit and talk like we're talking right now about wrestling and call that a show. And have people that are listening from around the world to this thing and they're invested in it. Like I'm not a big believer in luck, but it was very, very fortunate that this came my way at the time it did, because I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. I'm still not sure what my whole life is going to look like moving forward, but I do know that Sunday night's main event is going to be a big part of it. Nice. And I don't know. There's some great organizations out there. You know, there's a promotion. I think they're Alberta based too. So We Love Wrestling. And you know, there's websites like For the Love of Wrestling and stuff. It's like, if we can enjoy these shows and not piss and moan about them so much, that's the dynamic I like to bring to the show. And we'll see. Maybe I'll be ostracized and chased off by the fans within a couple of weeks. But so far, so good. People know I think you'll be just fine, man. Well, people know that I know my shit and I respect the business, which I think is something that gets lost in these days, where you can hop online and you can complain. You can, I don't like that NXT has colors now. You know, it's like, is that really your problem? Like, think about it. You don't like the color of something. Forget the fact these guys and girls are still going in there and trying to kill each other without killing each other. You know, just sit back and ask yourself.
I'll be honest with you. Part of my problem is the colors.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm the first one to say, one of the most positive things you'll ever hear me say about the WWE, and the one thing that I don't think any promotion anywhere that I've ever watched can touch them on, is their production value.
Yeah.
When you look at their show, they have the slickest, I don't know if it's lighting, the cameras they use, you know, rub Vaseline on the lenses. I have no idea what they do, but their picture quality, their lighting, everything is perfect. And that's what I thought NXT was had that kind of bar room feel. And I appreciate they want to, you know, I appreciate what they're going for, but I preferred the other NXT. Does that mean I won't watch NXT because it has colors? No, that just means I preferred the other look.
And that's totally fair too. The thing that we as fans have to realize is that, and this goes for everything, dude, I'm an obsessive fan. Like, we talk about my Ghostbusters passion. To the right of me is literally my entire Ghostbusters memorabilia section. Like, dude, I'm a devil in the details guy, but we have to allow the thing that we love to live its own way too. Do you know what I mean? Right. And if you just accept that WWE isn't necessarily made for the hardcore fans, but you can still get rewarded as a hardcore fan. Right. Like, they're not calling the pay-per-views takeover anymore, but that was a takeover if I ever saw one last night. Like, it was a great show, War Games. Right. And the wrestling was on point. Fabian
It's
Aichner.
always been my thing with the NXT pay-per-views. The work rates are always incredible.
If you know Fabian Aichner from the tag team Imperium with Walter's guys, like that guy just blew my mind last night. Just seeing the stuff and even the commentary said, we've not seen this level out of this guy, and that's just it. He really put himself above the card last night, and it was fun to see. They had these crazy War Games matches. They had this Team Black and Gold against Team NXT 2.0 match, and all these great stories and everything. But I got to tell you, man, just as someone who still enjoys in-ring action, I was entertained. I stopped caring about the stories and I just watched the matches, because it was that good. So
and that's what it boils down to for me.
Yeah.
Like, all the interviews and stuff, I appreciate the build, but I just want to see good wrestling. It's good, good, bad, or indifferent on the programs. Like, oh, can the guy cut a promo, man? Can he just work? That's always, or can she work? Right. Like, I'm going to go off on a tangent now, but it's on my head. I have to bring it out. One of the things that the WWE, to piss on the WWE a little bit, one of the things they've done recently that's bothered me the 100% the most was re-signing Eva Marie. That to me was the dumbest fucking move. And for no other reason was she had done nothing in her time between leaving the WWE last time and signing with the WWE recently to improve her wrestling. It's like, why would you do that? Not because she's and I'm not saying she's a bad person. I've never met her. For all intents and purposes, seems like a pretty nice lady. Having said that, it's like her wrestling was never good. She's never improved. Why would you resign her? And that's where I start questioning the shit they're doing.
Can I?
You sure can.
Something here.
You will be allowed to retort, sir.
Remember, and I'm not going to say whether or not I thought she should have been there either, but it's funny that you have that reaction to them signing her. I always say when something like that happens, that's when I say, uh-oh, they're trying to work the workers. They're working the workers now. Like, if you're that inside and you know what goes on in the wrestling ring, you know what she can and can't do, that dude, they're not that dumb. They're not, they know that
that's what I'm trying to that's what I'm trying to look for, Mike. I'm looking for the work. Why?
That's it though. Look at how pissed off you. She's been gone for a month and a half already, and you're still mad about them signing her.
But why? Like, they signed her there's no way they signed her just to agitate me. Having said that, she did get Dewdrop over.
Exactly. There it is. That's right? The answer right there. That's the answer. They signed her
just to get that other girl over, you think?
I'm telling you, man, they have been working on such a level now that honestly, for the storylines on TV, that's for the kids. For the things that we question as bonehead decisions, that's for the grown-ups.
Right.
All this stuff that we hear and see and talk about, they know. Are you kidding? They know exactly what the reaction is going to be. They let go some of the best talent on the roster and they sign Eva Marie. The internet explodes. But guess what? Everybody's talking about WWE. And
I didn't even react to that until I was like, you know what? I haven't seen her. I haven't seen hiding her hair. I'm going to reserve judgment. And then the first time I see her on TV is like, nope, still dog shit.
Yeah, but that's just it, though. You still waited to see her on TV because I was the same way. I was very curious. It's like, wow, did she go and do some insane training?
Has she been in the PC and nobody told us?
Yeah, and that's just it. But that's what they wanted. They wanted the buzz, the curiosity, because you still watched. And that's the thing.
But I'm watching anyways. I'm a big
exactly. They know that we're always gonna be there, so they're gonna do this to us because that's the ride. We can't build you up if we don't tear you down.
No, man, I think you're giving them too much credit. I really do. I think you're giving them too much credit. There's no fucking way. In what universe do you release Bray Wyatt and tell me you had a plan? Get the fuck out of here with that.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, they did light him on fire. Where do you go from there? I mean, where does Cody go from here after he was lit on fire? Right?
I was gonna say, for starters, maybe don't light him on fire. But
yeah,
no, really, truly, I think that was honestly, I think that to me was the best wrestling character in probably the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that was I appreciate they have all the rights to it and things like that, but the fact that they let that go tells me that somebody's I can only think, and this is not my thought, these are the thoughts of other people that have a way larger ear to the ground than I, But it does seem like they're positioning for sale, that they're trimming roster, that they're just doing weird shit.
They could be. They could be very well. I mean, let's face it, they're making a lot of business decisions. We talked about this on the show yesterday too. Sorry, I'm just keep hammering back to the show, but we literally just talked about this on Sunday night's main event,
right?
Where, the day one show, it's on New Year's Day. They've never done a pay-per-view on New Year's Day. There was a time where the Survivor Series was actually on Thanksgiving Eve. It used to be the actual Wednesday before the Thursday, but then they moved all the pay-per-views to Sundays. But now they have a show on New Year's Day. And at first, everybody was like, why would you put a show on New Year's Day? But then I said, when do they put football on? When do they put other shows on?
Yeah.
When everybody's sitting at home.
And usually by 5 o'clock New Year's Day, everyone's tired of football.
Exactly. So what do you got now? You got a wrestling pay-per-view. I think it's going to be one of the most watched pay-per-views, and it's going to be the first one of the year. But that's a bigger sports picture than wrestling has, because again, WWE of old, pay-per-view Sunday, pal. It's always Sunday,
Yeah.
And now they're doing all sorts of stuff. The shows from around the world. I mean, the Saudi Arabia shows are their own beast, which we don't need to talk about here. But
when they did the shows, conversation.
Yeah, but when they did the shows from Australia and Japan and everything, wrestling shows in the middle of the day, I watched all of them because I was like, this is weird, but it's kind of cool. Yeah. And now, but that was for the P1s. That was for the fans like you and me that are always going to be there. Right. This day one show, this is big time marketing. This is going after the football crowd. This is hey, isn't there wrestling on tonight? Yes, there is. We're gonna watch it.
Right. Yeah, that's true, man. Yeah, everyone's gonna be hungover and recovering.
Exactly. So I can't say whether or not to the sale, like your guess is as good as mine, but I wouldn't be surprised either. Like it all makes sense. So
well, and the thing is, it's either one of those things where it all makes sense or nothing makes sense, and stop trying to make sense of it. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to let things be. All right, man. So where can people follow you? Excuse me, I'm choking. Where can people follow you these days?
Let's see. Well, you can follow me in Saskatoon. No.
I run down at 5 p.m.
Yeah. A lot of my stuff is at McGuire Show. So MCGUIRE Show. That's my Instagram, my Twitter. I have a Facebook page that was more radio leany towards that as well. You can also just find me on Facebook as well. And of course, snmeradio.com is the big website where you can go. Again, if you subscribe to the Patreon, I see a seventh of it because there's so many other people that are working much harder than I do on the show and deserve it, frankly. But you're supporting people who are like you and me, who just care about wrestling and love talking about it. And if you're listening to the Duke You Suck podcast and you've stuck through this long, clearly you like long form conversation. You'll get a lot of that from a great team of people. So
well, and you know what, man, I was about to let you out of here, but I have one more question.
Yeah, have at her.
How's your mom?
Oh, dude.
I am so inspired by you and your mother.
Okay. So for those that don't know, my mom is my grandma who adopted me. Her name is Lois, and she is 93 right now. And the funny thing is that for the last few years, I've kind of found myself in that role of primary caregiver. I moved her here to Saskatoon because it was easier. She had a bit of a stumble over the holidays a couple of years ago, and they're like, well, you can't take her back to Edmonton. Like, she wouldn't make it through the ride without incredible pain and everything else. She cracked a couple vertebrae, fall, just like she went to get up and then just kind of slipped back down into a sitting position.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes that's all it takes, man. When you're old. But so that happened, and then within a week, I had her moved out here, found a place, got her all set up and everything else. And this is a time where my career was in transition and everything else. So it was stressful, but we got it done, and she's doing okay. I'll be honest, there's some challenges that come up at this age. Sure. But the one thing, and if I can leave your viewers and listeners with any thought on this, the one thing I always try and do is still treat her with as much respect and dignity as I would anybody else, any age. And I say that because we find ourselves a lot, I feel, when it comes to seniors, kind of giving them the shaft. Yeah. And the fact that senior care is ridiculously expensive. I mean, ridiculously
Unbelievable
expensive.
how much that shit is.
And to be honest, some of it is necessary. Personal opinion, sue me. Some of it's a racket.
Right.
Some of it is a huge racket.
Just because they can.
Just because they can, and because they know that people want to, you know, I'm half Chinese. I don't know if I ever told you this, but I was raised a little bit to learn some of my Chinese culture by a friend of mine that unfortunately passed away. But it's funny, you know, when you see on TV and stuff, a lot of Asian families especially will have, you know, grandma and grandpa living with them and everybody's all in the house together.
Yeah, you bet.
That's part of the culture because it's considered a place of honor to have your family with you, and you know, they did everything for you, so it's your turn to take care of them.
North America is one of the few countries in the world that doesn't really practice that.
And that's
continents. Sorry, it doesn't happen here.
Yeah, and that's why she's a bigger social media star than I am, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and if you aren't following hashtag Lois LOIS hashtag Lois Best Life, you are missing out. Follow the adventures of Mike and Lois. It's beautiful to watch.
But that's just it. And remember, and use that for the people that are older in your life too, because even though the memories might be slipping a bit, even though I'm hearing the same story a couple times a day or something like that, there'll still be times where I'll ask her, Mom, how you feel today? And she'll say, I don't feel 93. You know, I don't feel, you know, and right? Think that, right? So remember, those people are still people too, and they matter more than we ever give them credit for. So,
well, if there's any way you can let your mom know that she's a huge inspiration to so many people, man, she really is. She's a fantastic lady. And the way you treat your mother is an example for the rest of us.
I'll tell you, I appreciate that. But
you're a fantastic son. And I can't say enough good things about you. Honestly, I could blow sunshine up your ass all day.
That's all right. There's enough people watching this going to say, fuck that guy. So that's fine.
Mike McGuire, thank you so much for coming on, man. I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Oh, one more time. This has been the Duke You Suck podcast with Dirty Duke.
Thank you so much, brother. Have a good one.
Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth.